A gute Woche and Bruchim Haboim to the 42nd Siyum HaRambam for the 3 Prakim, coupled with the 14th Siyum HaRambam for Perek Echad. Bruchim Haboim and Mazel Tov. We are told that b'mokim shemachshavtei shel Adam shom hu nimtza, where a person's thought is where he is, and we all here together in this room are participating in the same limud of the same sefer, a sefer of Torah, a place of truth, a place of eternity which unites us all together. Particularly when we're discussing the Sefer HaRambam, which encapsulates Kol HaTorah Kula. So this is an incredible unity that we're all experiencing, and it's an incredible and beautiful Hashgacha Pratis that this is all taking place in Shnas Hakil. To start off the evening, I want to call up Rabbi Chaim Tzvi Groner to say the Rebbe's kapitel.
Shir HaMalos LeDavid Tzomachti B'imrim Li Beis Adonai Neilech Oim Dois Hoyu Ragleinu B'Shorayich Yerushalayim Yerushalayim HaBenuya Ki Ir Shechubra Lo Yachdav Shesham Olu Shvatim Shiftei Eidus Li Yisrael Lahoides L'Shem Adonai Ki Shama Yashvu Chisois LeMishpat Kisois LeVeis David Shalu Shloim Yerushalayim Yishloyu Havoyich Yehi Shalom Bechelech Shalva Barmen Oisoich Leman Achai V'rei Oyadabron Shalom Bach Leman Beis Adonai Eloheinu Avak Shotov Loch.
As it's Motzei Shabbos, the minig is to say a story, and tonight being the birthday of the Rebbe Maharash, so we'll share a short story about the Rebbe Maharash. There was a small town called Batshekov where there were many Yidden, and they were under a particular squire, a poritz, who was very kind-hearted and did whatever he could to help the community, especially for people who were poor, or Rabbanim, Shachtim, Melamdim. He always exempt them from different responsibilities or taxes, and it was a good place for the Yidden. But as this paritz got old, he hired a manager who was a terrible anti-Semite, and within a short amount of time, things turned for the worse. Within 2 years, there was not one Yid who had any parnasa. Now these Yidden who lived in this town would visit the Rebbe Maharash quite often, but they didn't want to bother the Rebbe Maharash with their tzaras. There was one particular Yid who lived in this area. His name was Reb Shmuel. And Reb Shmuel had old ties, old family ties to this paritz. And one time when he came to the Rebbe Maharash asked him, "What's going on in your town?" And he spilled the beans. He said the whole story about what's happening, and the Rebbe Maharash admonished him for not telling him earlier. And then the Rebbe Maharash said to him to pass on the following message to your paritz, that I know that he's critically ill, and the doctors have just about given up hope on his life. Tell him that for every single family that he provides parnasa for, I will guarantee another month to his life. Reb Shmuel came back to the town of Batshekov. He met the paritz, passed on the words of the Rebbe Maharash, and the paritz asked him to draw out a list of all of the Jewish families that live there. He made a list of about 160 and later added a couple dozen. And within a short amount of time, all of these families were back to having a good parnasa. The community was once again flourishing, and the paritz, of course, recovered. 14 years passed. The paritz enjoyed perfect health. And then one day, Reb Shmuel shows up in Lubavitch. This was after the histalkus of the Rebbe Maharash. And he went to the oil of the Rebbe Maharash, and he came with a prayer on behalf of the Paritz. The Paritz had made a cheshbon that according to how many families he helped, he still had another 14 months. But just recently, his health took a terrible decline, and he felt like his time was coming. And he was mourning for the Rebbe Maharash. He still has another 14 months. So Reb Shmuel came to the oil and davened, and sure enough, this Paritz lived another 14 months in good health, and then passed away. As it's the Rebbe Maharash's birthday, we will now play a nigun from the Farbrengen of the Rebbe, of the Chatchila Rebbe, the nigun that the Rebbe Maharash is known for, and if we can ask everyone to please join in. To make the Siyum of the 42nd Machzor, we're going to ask someone who has the schus to be Misameach Yidden, someone who has a special connection to Limud HaRambam through his involvement in Tivas Hashem, in the Chidon. And we have the big schus that he's here in Melbourne with us, Rabbi Choni Milecki.
Good Vach to Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. When I landed a couple of weeks ago here in Melbourne, I immediately had very, very mixed feelings. On the one hand, I was so happy to be back on Australian soil. But on the other hand, as all Sydney-siders know, Melbourne is not exactly Australia. But, I've been here for 2 weeks, and I gotta say, I've got to meet a lot of people here, and I've got to check out all of the Moistus, or many of the Moistus here, and what can you say? As the song goes, I still call Australia home. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that will be the musical entertainment for tonight. That's all we got for you. And honestly, Melbourne, Australia, Baruch Hashem, is such an amazing place, a special place, and a very, very unique place. But what makes Melbourne so unique? So the last two prakim of Rambam that we've been doing the last 2 days talks about Mashiach. And there's a very, very interesting lashon right at in the first halacha of the 11th chapter of Hilchos Melachim. And the Rambam says, HaMelech Mashiach asid lamed lahachzir malchus beis David liyashna hamshala rishona. Mashiach's going to come, he's going to make everything to the way it once was. Ubayna mikdash, he's going to build the base of mikdash. Umekabes nidchi Yisrael, and he is going to bring all of the Yidden back to Eretz Yisrael. So most of us, we read that very quickly, and we get through the Perek of Rambam. It's very interesting. But if you just think for 1 second, as of course the Rebbe has done, you say, 1 second, the Rambam has the reverse order over here. He says, first Baina Mikdash, first we're going to build the base of Mikdash, and then we're going to gather all of the Yidden together. That's never how it was historically. What happened in Mitzrayim? Hashem didn't go to Moshe and say, first you'll build a Mishkan, and then when you finish building the Mishkan, let's gather all of the Jews. That's not how it works. First, what happened was, you have to gather the Jews. Then they have to schlep them through the desert for 49 days. And during those 49 days, you have to lift them one level at a time out of the Tumah. And then when they're finally out of the Shementes Shari Tumah, then they're standing in front of Har Sinai. They're ready to get the Torah. They get the Torah, and now V'asuli Mikdash. Now you can get the Beis HaMikdash. And that's the same thing that happened with the first Beis HaMikdash as well. David HaMelech wanted to build it, and Hashem said, no, you got to wait. First, you got to battle all of the battles. You got to capture Eretz Yisrael. You got to bring the Yidden back to Hashem, and then Shlomo HaMelech will do the Shleimus. He will build the Beis HaMikdash, and through that bring Shalom to the world. So why then does the Rambam say this order? First Beis HaMikdash, first you build the Beis HaMikdash, and then we bring all of the Yidden back in. So the Rebbe reminds us of a story that everybody here knows, so we'll do it fast. There was a big war happening on the borders of the empire of the French and the Russian empires. And there's a big battle between two spiritual luminaries, two big Rebbes, the Alter Rebbe and Reb Baruch Mezbush, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. Now, the way that this war worked is that whoever's going to blow the shofar first on Rosh Hashanah morning, that person is going to decide who is going to be in charge of the world. Is it going to be Napoleon, or is it going to be the Tsar? I think his name was Alexander. Who is it going to be? Whoever blows the shofar first. Now, this is a very, very unfair fight, because the Alter Rebbe had no chance. Why? Reb Baruch Mezbush, he had already won the high school championships of the fastest davener. He was able to daven so fast that even the guy on Ma'ariv at the end of Yom Kippur had no chance to keep up with this guy. The Alter Rebbe, on the other hand, the Alter Rebbe was known that when he davened, he would faint, he would roll on the floor, he'd be clapping his hands. There was no chance that the Alter Rebbe had to win, to get to the shofar first. But as the famous story goes, what happened is that when Reb Baruch Mezbush gets to the shofars, he suddenly senses that it's too late. And he says, the Litvak hat schon ausgehabt. The Alter Rebbe has already got me. He already blew the shofar. How did he do that? And everyone knows the famous story. The Alter Rebbe just woke up in the morning and he blew the shofar. He didn't wait for davening. And one thing that always interested me about this story is, what was the big deal here? Mendel Milecki. Hi, my son is over here. He's learning in the cheder. Mendel Milecki. Would you have, if you knew that you had to blow the shofar first to win, would you realize that you have to blow the shofar, or would you daven first? You blow the shofar first. Everybody knows that. Every single one of our kids would blow the shofar first. What was the big chiddush over here that the Alter Rebbe blew the shofar first, and why didn't Reb Baruch Mezbush realize that this is what he had to do? So the Rebbe explains. He says this wasn't so simple. Baruch Mezbush didn't have the ability to just go and blow the shofar, because Baruch Mezbush understood that first you have to go in the way that the world that Yetzias Mitzrayim went. First you have to do kibbutz galuyos, and then Bnei Yerushalayim. What does that mean? First, you have to do personal work. You have to bring together kibbutz galuyos. You have to bring together your esek kochas hanefesh. You have to bring together your machshava dibur ma'isa. You have to bring together shibud hamoyach v'halev, and you have to connect yourself to the Eivishter. That's the first thing. Anytime you want to accomplish something, the first step is personal growth. You have to first work on yourself. Once you've finished working on yourself, then the next step, you can try to change the world and see who's going to rule the world. You want the Napoleon to rule? First you have to work on yourself, then you can work on the world. The Alter Rebbe had a completely different approach. The Alter Rebbe said, the fire burnt. We can't wait for that. First we're going to change the world. First we're going to be Bnei Yerushalayim, like the Rambam says. The Alter Rebbe was passing like the Rambam, and then we'll try to we'll work on ourselves. We'll daven later. So what does this have to do with Melbourne? I think that I wouldn't be here today if the Rebbe hadn't treated Melbourne this way, because my father wouldn't be here if not for the Rebbe's approach over here. What happened is that the Rebbe decided many decades ago, I think it was in the 60s in the Chafs, the Rebbe decided to send a bunch of kids, a bunch of Bachrim, to einnemen Australia for the Schwer, to take Australia, turn it over, and bring it back to the Rebbe. These are Bachrim who were not big Rashi yeshivas. These are not Bachrim who had already worked on themselves to the point that they were already tachlis hashlemus. These were just guys who realized that the Rebbe sent them because you have to first do Bnei Yerushalayim. You have to come to Australia and take over the world. and not worry first about your own ruchnius. And that's indeed what shluchim all over the world have done. The whole idea of the shlichus is first Boinei Yerushalayim, like the Rambam says here, and then Makabis Nidchei Yisrael. And then you should have time and make it a priority when you can work on your own ruchnius as well. But nevertheless, says the Rebbe, that's only when it comes to you. When it comes to a zulas, when it comes to your mushpa, you have to go according to the regular Seder. The regular Seder being, first, Makabes Nidchei Yisrael. First, you have to help the Yid, and you have to care about his gashmias, and you have to care about his ruchnias. One of the things that always amazed me when I went to Eretz Yisrael for yeshiva over there is they have this mitzvah over there called Mitzvah Sufganiyot. On Chanukah, you go out and you're giving donuts to people. What mitzvah is there in donuts? But really there is, because you want to bring simcha to a Yid by taking care of his sweet tooth. Even that. And of course, you have to bring a Yid also ruchnis as well. Make sure that every Yid has a place to send his kids to school. Every single Yid has a place to get kosher food. Every single Yid has the ability to learn and to know, to ladasis Hashem. So what does it all have to do with us? In the Lubavitch world, there's a bit of a crisis that's been going on for a couple of decades at this point. And that is, everyone wants to go in shlichus, but there's nowhere left to go. So all of the big cities have been taken. All of the little cities have been taken. I have friends who are on shlichus for 20 years, and they can hardly get a minyan. So all the little cities have been taken. So then they came up with the new idea, you know what, we'll send shluchim to campus. Well, all of the big campuses are taken. What's next? Friendship circle. Okay, we'll do friendship circle. Any city that can have a friendship circle has a friendship circle. So what's the next frontier? What's the next level of shlichus? And I think it's obvious. I think that the shlichus is that every single one of us, myself included, are shluchim in the work that we do. We're shluchim, I'm a musician, in the people who I encounter, in the realms that I have influence in. And whether you're an accountant or a teacher or whatever it is, we all are shluchim today. And what is the way that we conquer the world for the Rebbe? How do we conquer the world to bring Mashiach? We follow what the Rambam says here. Boine Mikdash, first of all. Firstly, we go out and we try as much as possible to bring the world to Mashiach. And then, of course, you worry about yourself second in line. But that's only when it comes to you. When it comes to your friend, when it comes to a fellow Yid, first of all, we care about the fellow Yid, begashmias and beruchnias. And when we do that, we come to a time when when that time comes, there'll be no hunger, there'll be no war, no jealousy or competition, there will be good everywhere. All luxury will be as common as dust, and the entire asik of the whole world will just be to know Hashem. And therefore the Yidden will be great chachamim, will know the deepest and most hidden secrets of the Torah. And we will understand Hashem as much as is humanly possible. Shenemar, as it says in the Torah, Ki mala aretz deis Hashem, that the world, when Mashiach comes, will be full of the knowledge and the experience of Hashem, kamayim lo yom achasim, the same way that water covers the sea. Berich Rachman Desayon, Nigmar Sefer Abasa, Bezer Shaddai, Minyan Prokim, L'Shel Sefer Zeh, Echad Shmeinim, Hilchas Sanhedrin, Shisha V'Esrim Prokim, Hilchas Eida, Shnai V'Esrim Prokim, Hilchas Mamrim, Shiva Prokim, Hilchas Evel, Abaras Prokim, Hilchas Malachim, U'Mechamas Shneim Asa Prokim. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi Choni, for that beautiful siyum, and for reminding us that we are all shluchim of the Rebbe, each in their own capacity, each in their own way, has the full achrayus to do as we just finished off with filling this world with Deis Hashem. In case you were wondering, Choni is here to visit his parents, who we're very happy now are residents of Melbourne, Australia.
And to apply